Welcome, listeners. Welcome to Kyle and Cody's Cult Cinema Cast, home of the unappreciated, the unwanted, the unloved. I'm Cody.
Yeah, I'm Kyle, I guess. You just used welcome twice in the exact same sentence. It's okay.
We've pointed this out. We've pointed this out already. We're moving on.
You used to be so good at this, and then you kind of just pivoted downhill. Like,
are you kidding? I was terrible at this from the beginning. I missed it like in two of the earlier podcasts.
Have I just not
it took
been
me like
attention?
You haven't been. It took me like 5 tries to get it right once.
Oh God.
I've maybe had like 3 episodes where I got it done properly.
Here's what you need to do, because you do take notes. I don't take notes.
Yeah.
Just write out your opening every single time on the top of your note page.
I do.
Before
it
you
is. I do. It's there. I just forget about it sometimes and
onto your arm.
In my defense, this is probably this is probably the better takes. Actually, it only took us like one say to go through. I didn't stumble on my words. So anyway, so you want to hear something painful?
What?
$3 million US dollar budget, $830,000 box office.
Oh yeah, probably one of the worst we've seen so far.
Yeah, that is. I don't know. Black Cauldron might have done a little bit better than this, but I don't think by much. Like this is maybe a third margin, and then Black Cauldron maybe lost. Didn't made half it, and this made a third, less than a third. So I guess this is a good chunk.
I think spending power balances it out, though.
Yeah, it's kind of bounced out. This actually was a bit of a joke movie. Apparently, it was based on like a contest where you made a trailer for the movie Grindhouse, which is named for stuff, and this movie got made, and so it turned out good. Another thing. Look at the cast list for a second.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, just pull it up.
Sure.
Tell me what the fifth entry. Look at the fifth entry for a second. Does he look familiar?
Nick Bateman?
What? No.
Nick Bateman?
The fifth one on mine is Gregory. No. The next one, Gregory Smith.
That one's one lower. Maybe I'm counting the dots wrong. You could be right. Yeah, I don't know who Gregory Smith is.
He was in our movie last week. He was Alan.
Huh.
Yeah.
What the hell? Is he? Alan Abernathy. Wow. Okay.
And you know what? I had almost made a point of recognizing that last episode. I had cut this bit out of the episode because it ended up being me Googling something for 2 minutes and not finding it. But I had noticed it before we recorded and then forgot about it. But yeah, Gregory Smith is in both these movies. He plays a character named Slick, who's one of the antagonists.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've told the audience a little bit about the background of this movie. It was won a contest. One of Rutger Hauer was brought in to play the Hobo. The Hobo in the original audition trailer was played by a smaller actor who's has a cameo in this as one of the cops.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know which one for sure. Ricky from Trailer Park Boys is in this movie. This is filmed in Halifax, so not a hard thing. Yeah.
Sorry, but I just want to bring up the hobo who's played by Rutger Hauer. Oh, he was a Dutch actor, and in 1999, he was named by the Dutch people as the best Dutch actor of the century.
Huh.
And here he is, starring in Hobo with a Shotgun that did not even release. That's all I'm saying is how the mighty have fallen, right?
Yeah, I thought he does a good job, though, I think. Like, I've definitely seen big actors like this phone this in way more than he does. He does a decent hobo impression, I think, in this, or homeless guy impression in this. So partially Canadian film anyway, so that's kind of nice. I like getting the odd Canadian show on here.
We've got more stuff planned for the Canadian side, but
yeah, at least one in the regular episodes, and then obviously we're doing a Canada Day special, and I won't give that away just yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll be a Canadian film, or a Canadian filmmaker anyway. We have a particular filmmaker in mind.
I'd just like to go over, because this has a tie-in with the Grindhouse. It was the second of the Grindhouse fake trailers to be turned into a feature film, the first being Machete, and its sequel, Machete Kills. So, we're speaking about tie-ins. Machete was originally in Spy Kids.
Oh yeah, this is
How did that turn into this whole...
Robert Rodriguez directs Spy Kids, and he's a co-director on Grindhouse.
Okay. And so he was like, let's take this childhood spy and turn him into a... I don't know what you'd want to call Machete, because I've only read the plot synopsis on what the first Machete movie was about.
I think we'll do that. I think we'll do Machete at some point. I'm putting it on the
Season 2.
eventually lists. Maybe not season 2. But yeah, that'll be kind of fun but yeah, this is took a hit. 6.1 on IMDb, 66 on Rotten Tomatoes, 55 on Metacritic. Yeah, it's kind of downturn there. 80% of Google users like it though, so it does have a little bit of a positive reputation. I don't think it ever caught up. I think it's got that conundrum of being something a lot of people like, but it's got like Hobo. How many people are really going to go see Hobo with a shotgun? It's a very drive-in style movie, or a straight to DVD thing, and it's just like a kind of, you could almost see it going badly in theatricals, because Quentin Tarantino makes money at the theater. Movies Quentin Tarantino likes don't make money at the theaters. At least not nowadays. It's when they've killed like drive-ins and whatnot. Though we do still have one around here. We might have to. I'm excited. I kind of want me and my buddy from work have been wanting to get to a drive-in since last year.
I heard they're
think about it until
reopening up about 6 here in Saskatchewan. So
yeah, the first movie they're showing is like Trolls World Tour. So
you're not a big fan of the Troll series?
Nah.
Okay.
It was actually really disappointing. Me and Brett from work were gonna go like last week of the drive-in last year, but they switched around the schedule. So instead of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it ended up being Lion King remake, which neither of us were wanting to go see. So yeah, into the plot here. So yeah, it's shot in Technicolor, which is kind of neat.
Something different, especially right over the opening credits. They did another open credits sequence. 2011. I guess you don't really see that a lot.
Yeah, so Technicolor, for those who don't know, is a process in which was introduced way back when they didn't have a lot of color photography or filming, where they could put filters on the film and that would make it get you some color. It's very saturated for the colors, so it looks a lot different than a like a actual image, or like a more, if you're looking at like really early Technicolor stuff, just look at like Wizard of Oz. You'll get a good idea of what that looks like. Very saturated colors. So yeah, it's got kind of like a retro feel to it, which is kind of nice. It's a neat thing. I don't think it hurts the film. We see Rutger Hauer's hobo character riding into town on the rails. He rides into a town which is I forget what it's called precisely. I forgot to write it down, but it's it has spray painted scum over the first word, so it's Scum Town, and I'm going to call it that. It's a very Gotham City type city where it's just a complete cesspit.
Shot in Halifax, I do believe.
Yeah. I was going to make a joke about Halifax being a cesspit in real life, but I really don't know. And I know exactly, Halifax people. They'd probably get offended at me. Rutger Hauer walks through a bit of the... I've been calling him Rutger Hauer and the Hobo because the character doesn't actually get a name. He's listed in the credits as Hobo, so I don't really have a name for him. he's going through the city, seeing the very gross version of it. It's got like graffiti everywhere. He goes across a bum fight. The guy filming it has offers him $10 to get into the fight. Our first real scene involves Ricky from Trailer Park Boys getting hauled out into the middle of the street by a character who professes himself to be his brother and his nephews. They are clearly the only rich people in this town. Like they're wearing like clean clothes and everything. Everyone else is, if not homeless, is like very working poor. The nephews put a barbed wire noose around Rick's neck after dumping him in a sewer grate with a sewer grate collar. And this should probably, I'm surprised this doesn't just break anyone's neck, because that's like hanging somebody with metal right
Mm-hmm.
there. I'm surprised that doesn't kill everyone. It doesn't. It's just everyone's fine about it. Because yeah, that would probably suffocate you. Yeah. My guess is they're like, because this is a manhole they're putting them in. I'm guessing they got their feet on the staircase, but that would help them get out. It's weird, though. I mean, it'd be hard to get out of a staircase of a climb upwards on a ladder with just your feet and a steel manhole cover on your neck. It'd probably be, maybe I'm getting
Yeah.
too much into that, but yeah, I don't. It'd probably be very difficult to get out. The nephew and the brothers, who are characters we know that we will learn to be called the old man's Drake. His nephews are Slick, played by Gregory Smith, and
They're not nephews.
well, no, they're
They're
his
sons.
sons. They're Drake's sons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but they're Ricky's nephews. And then Ivan, played by Nick Bateman. So they hook this barbed wire noose around his neck and make a big show of ripping off Ricky's head. So that sprays blood everywhere. He just has one of Drake's stripper entourage just dances in Ricky's blood, which
Yeah,
sprays everywhere.
that was weird.
Yeah. I didn't even Here's the thing, I didn't see her before that. And I had
Mm-hmm.
looked away to like write something down and like, wait, what? When'd you get here? Doesn't help that I had to watch this movie on my phone because it wouldn't load on my laptop for some fucking reason.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I watched it on my phone too, so I mean it's not.
Yeah. I don't know. I got the last movie I rented on YouTube to play on my computer. I don't know what it is. Yeah, and then they take Ricky's severed head and put it on a pike on the front of Drake's car, which is very excessive. And clearly, this guy just has a run of the place.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, at this point, there'd be so many cops here at this point.
Oh yeah.
The hobo is doing his best to ignore everything, walk by everything.
Mm-hmm.
He has a very somber scene where he dumpster dives to get a sign out of the trash that he can write on. He wants to save money for panhandle for money so he can buy a lawnmower, which
Yes.
I didn't think initially he was serious about that, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, serious about that. We learn later in the movie. And yeah, that's why he write on the sign: need money for lawnmower.
After after he writes down that he needs money for his son who is missing a leg, he ripped that sign and then he wrote
Yeah,
need
he
money for a
decided to be
lawnmower.
honest, I guess. But he gets a little bit of change. He's
Mm-hmm.
slowly getting money. He's gathering it into a sock. He then follows around Slick and Ivan a bit and finds them at at arcade. It's like a big torture carnival, really, with lots of drugs and beating people up and killing people. We see Slick break this kid's arm. And I mean kid. The kid's no older than 17, I think. He's like saying he'll pay him back with his allowance. He breaks his arm and then shoves the kid's face into some cocaine, which I guess he gets addicted to, because we learn that a little bit later in the movie. Because this character comes
Yes.
back. They smash a guy's head with a bumper car, which is another scene.
Hmm.
The gore effects are really pop a blood balloon in this,
Yes.
which is
Over the top.
yeah, it's odd. It's this movie fluctuates between something that can be taken semi seriously to being a complete parody,
Mm-hmm.
which is bad for the tone. It's like you gotta stick with one to an extent. Like you get scenes where he's just making very somber remarks about his homelessness and wanting to do right by people, but and then there's just like cartoon blowing people's heads off and ripping people ahead to shreds.
Hmm.
It's just you don't know where to sit with it. Our female lead, a character called Abby, prostitute within the show, tells Slick to lay off the kid for a little bit. He doesn't, and then she offers him sex for money, which is odd. You'd think you'd stay away from it. It's a weird bit of characterization she has at the beginning here.
Hmm. That means she's a prostitute.
Yeah, it's weird that she's standing up for this kid. You probably could have done that in a way that makes sense, but it was just not done so. So they go into the back of the like a I guess a loading dock area where they're getting ready to uh, do the deed, and he starts dragging her toward a vehicle. The hobo then shows up and beats Slick over the head with his sock full of change, and claims he's making a citizen's arrest and takes him to the cops. Which little bit of you can tell this entire situation is getting to him already at this point, which is understandable. He's kind of Batmaning it up a little bit. I suppose he's Frank Castle. Yeah, at this point, he's Batmaning it up. The Frank Castling it up comes later. So he takes him to the cops. He's waiting around in an interrogation room for a little bit, and the chief of police comes in and gives him the story about how there's so much corruption. The hobo makes a point of saying you should just cleanse everything, fire all the cops, and replace them. The chief of police is making a very good show of acting like he's going to be the ally, but yeah, it turns out he's let Ivan come in and beat up the hobo. They tie up his wrists, and then Ivan carves the word bum into his chest.
Scum.
And then they was it scum?
Yeah, according to the Wikipedia page, it was scum.
Oh, I thought it was bum. I just saw the U M. I only saw 3 letters.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I could have gone that way. And then they toss him in the trash. The hobo gets out of there. He finds Abby somehow and asks for her help. While she is soliciting a man who's just clearly trying to get her to do something, which is textbook why prostitutes go missing.
Yes.
There is a there's a certain honesty to the way this movie just displays its characters. The prostitutes act like, for the most part, I've brought up an example of how this didn't work, but the prostitutes are doing stuff that prostitutes do. The homeless people are doing things that homeless people do, and they're not sugarcoating it. The hobo doesn't later get to reveal that he's like a college professor who was on drugs for a long time. Perhaps he's some sort of veteran with combat experience, but we never get that explanation.
No.
He's maybe got some mental health issues. I couldn't speak to them because they don't say anything in a movie, and it'd be difficult for me to. I'm not an expert in that field.
I think they prelude to it just a touch in the beginning where he's talking. He's like, I've got 2 brothers with inside me, and sometimes the one brother gets out. When he's talking to Abby, that comes up a little sooner. I'd also like to talk about the fact that Abby, this hobo's really nice to Abby. He says, you shouldn't be a prostitute, you should be a school teacher or something. And I think one of the lines that Abby used throughout later on in the movie was, I'm not a teacher, right? I fuck people for money.
Yeah, he clearly wants to see something better in the world. He just I think he's got a distorted version of reality, but it's not bad. It's maybe keeping him from holding down a job of any sort. But he does see the best in people for a certain point. It's his first instinct isn't to gun people down with shotguns. He's not a serial killer, which is maybe the impression that a lot of people get from the title. I recall thinking this was when seeing the trailer, this was going to be some sort of a slasher movie with the hobo as the bad guy. But yeah, no, he's got a generous, like, he's willing to take people up on their words at the first point. He's willing to give people a chance, but he's just, I think if maybe this wasn't such a bad city, because he's probably gone through tons of them, but I think this was just a
Mhm.
bad he just ended up in discount Canadian Gotham City, and Abby takes him to her place. She cleans up his wound, lets her sleep in her bed while she sleeps on the couch. There's no romance between Abby and the hobo, so thank God. I don't it would have been weird for just the really old character to pair with the really young character, which is nice. The world can stand. Anytime there's not an unnecessary romance, it's a good thing, as far as I'm concerned. As he's going to bed, he just starts rambling about a bear speech, and I think he's comparing himself to the bear at some point, where he says
Mhm.
that if he that they just need that bears they just need their space, and if you get him reach, they'll just take your head off really easily, and that once they get a taste for human flesh, they become a man eater and they need to be put down. Obviously, I don't think that's how bears work.
Mhm.
I don't think I didn't look it up, but I don't think I'm off base in saying that's not how bears work. But he's really talking about himself in a point, because he's got a good bit of awareness about his situation. He's just like maybe got a little bit of delusion a bit. He leaves before Abby wakes up in the morning and goes to the bum fight guy, knocks a glass bottle across his head. That gets him $20. The bum fight guy wants him to eat glass, which he does, and I guess that gets him the money he needs to go buy his lawnmower. It's a very bit disturbing scene, and it's like I think what's going through his head is that he wants to just put up with this, and then I can get my lawnmower and I can start my business and I can cut people's lawns and get some money.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, say what you want, he's easily stayed. He's actually, I would say he's a lawful character, if to use the D&D parlance.
Yes.
But yeah, he's willing to follow the law. It's just, I mean, if you're clearly in a when the lawful good character walks into the lawful evil place, eventually the lawful good character isn't going to give two shits about the law at a certain point. He's just gonna expunge the whole thing. So yeah, he is a like a lawful member of citizen. He's not the bad guy here by any extent. So he goes to buy a lawnmower, and at that moment, the shop gets robbed, and he takes a nearby shotgun to kill the robbers, which he does very handily. And he pays for the shotgun also, which lends into my lawful streak there. Which it's nice that the law. It's convenient that the shotgun costs the same as the lawnmower.
Yeah, but if I just saved a place from robbing them with their shotgun, I'm taking their shotgun and I'm taking the lawnmower.
He doesn't take the lawnmower though.
Yeah, exactly, right? He could have taken the lawnmower and completely be justified.
Yeah, he's that. I think yeah, it's just not where his mindset's at. He's a very he's just dealing with what he needs to deal with, and
And with that being said, if the pawn shop owner says anything to you at that point, you have a fucking gun.
I
Whoops.
suppose. Uh,
Like,
yeah,
what's he
what?
gonna do?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you want to advocate armed robbery,
I killed them and now I'm robbing you. Give me that lawnmower. I'll be on my way. Like,
just chaotic neutral all the way.
and I like how it's not even a good lawnmower. It's like a push mower. You can get one of those for less than $50, I'm assuming.
But it is a shitty lawnmower. It's like a really old one. It's like rusted and shit. He then proceeds to kill the bum fight guy and also a pimp who we had seen earlier in the movie, who was being rough with some of the prostitutes. Not Abby, but a different one. And then he also kills this pedophile in a Santa suit. We cut to a scene with Drake and his sons. Drake asks what happened to Slick's eye because he had gotten a black eye from getting beat up by the hobo. He's just like, oh yeah, this hobo gave him trouble. Uh, Ivan says, oh yeah, I beat him up and whatnot. He's like, you just beat him up after he did that to your brother? Put your head down. Because Ivan's the dumb brother. Drake is just like, makes a comment about that Slick needs to enforce the fact that he's a going to be a crime lord, and then he needs to make people afraid of him. And he's like, Slick starts popping off ideas, and Drake's just like, no, you need to be creative about how you kill these people. And to accent his point is a man behind him being hung from his ankles and being beat up by topless women.
And bats. They're not just like slapping this guy, they're hitting him with a bat.
Yeah, what is this? Manos, the hands of fate?
Okay.
But yeah, they're beating him up. But yeah, it's like I get your point. You're a very creative person. And so he comes up with so Slick comes up with an idea to make people afraid of him. He wants to get back at the hobo a little harder on his dad's recommendation. And he goes to a school bus full of children and lights it on fire to the song Disco Inferno.
Sorry, I'd like to go back to that because this was actually a really cool scene where at one point in time the guy Drake picks up a bat and he goes, and if life gives you razor blades, you stick them on a bat. And then he comes over to the guy who's being beaten up by the women and he cuts him open with this bat made of razor blades.
That is a good line.
It is, right?
Yeah, just like when life makes you lemons, squeeze them in its eye.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, they've burnt up these children. A recurring news guy who had been earlier in the movie. I think he's played by
I've seen him before.
George Strombolopoulos.
Yeah, that might be it, actually.
I'm not wrong. I said that like guessing, but yeah, it's like Strombopoulos. Yeah, that's pretty much it. He's a character. He does TV shows, I think.
Here in Canada.
Yeah, Slick barges in and beats up and kills the news guy, played by Strombolopoulos, and he then threatens people that they need to kill all the hobos or he'll light up another bus full of school children. Which
Yes.
FBI, please? Can the FBI come? Please? Some feds
Yeah.
involved?
I don't think we have an FBI here in Canada. We've only got the Mounties.
Yeah, it would be the Mounties. Yeah, this is way better. The Mount. Yeah, come on, Mounties. We need the Mounties to come and save us. Come on, get those red uniforms and brown hats and come save people. Just please help.
But I mean, I guess if your chief of police is corrupt, I don't think he's gonna be like, yeah. And today there was a bus full of children that like completely went unreported on.
Yeah, I feel there's a point where someone above would have gotten in charge, like the RCs. Yeah, eventually somebody bigger is gonna get involved. So yeah, people start and this is all for beating up Slick, by the way. This has nothing to do with the hobo killing that pimp or the child molester or the bum fighter guy who I mean the pimp may or may not have worked for Drake, who knows. But we get a scene of the townspeople killing a bunch of homeless people because they're afraid of Drake and they want to save other people. We cut to an image of a dirty cop with a rookie or someone who's not as dirty, and the dirty cop plans to solicit Abby for sex.
It's the same guy from earlier.
Was it the same guy from earlier?
It was the same guy from earlier. This one, he was shown in a regular car earlier, but now he's actually in a police car. So yeah, you kind of get the idea that this is a frequent thing where this cop's going.
Yeah, I guess, was he the guy that was soliciting Abby the first time?
Yeah.
Or not the first time, but when the hobo got out of the police station. Anyway, yeah, he tries to solicit Abby for sex. She says no, and then he gets out of the car and starts to chase her. The rookie cop does not chase after him, so he's not a character we respect, really. He's kind of pointless, honestly. You could had two dirty cops in the scene, it would have basically been the same, because the hobo comes across this scene of the policeman about to rape Abby. It gets not graphic, but like the disturbing beforehand stuff all happens, and Hobo shoots the cop. Abby makes a point about, oh, geez, you can't be killing people, and he's like, hey, I gotta kill people because we got to. And then a mob of people come to go after him because obviously Slick wants this guy dead. The hobo starts going toward him with the shotgun. Abby stops him because they're not strictly criminals, but they are scared. I think there's a bit of a, these people probably do belong in jail, let's be honest. But yeah, she manages to sneak him out through the cop's dead body somehow. It's odd. So they go back to Abby's house. They agree to leave the town and start a lawn mowing business. As they start, what the kid whose arm Slick had broken earlier in the movie sees Abby and Hobo going to the apartment, so he calls up Slick and offers him their position in exchange for a hit. Slick and Ryan pull up to Abby's motel apartment building place, and Ivan's going up in his hockey skates for whatever reason.
Few odd references to the fact that this is a Canadian movie. One of them is like they've literally been using not only hockey skates but hockey sticks. You can see them in kind of a couple of the mob scenes and stuff like that in the background. One point in time, I saw a goalie stick covered in barbed wire, stuff like that. Just little things, right?
Obviously, the Trailer Park Boy alum in this. Ivan and Slick go up to the apartment. They break in and start assaulting Abby and the hobo. Ivan is attacking the hobo. Slick is attempting to rape Abby because Ivan tries to stomp at the hobo with his skates. He does so. The hobo catches one of Ivan's skates with a toaster and uses it to electrocute Ivan. That gives him an opportunity to get his shotgun, and
Ivan or Slick wasn't trying to rape her. He was like straight up trying to murder her, because this is the part where he takes a hacksaw to her neck.
oh yeah, no, I was wrong about that. Yeah, she takes. Yeah, he had partially. He had started cutting out her off her neck with a hacksaw. Yeah, he had the hobo takes him, points him outside. It's weird he doesn't just shoot him where he's standing, and that honestly might have saved him a bit of trouble. Like, get him out of the room where Abby is, because you don't want to get his blood and her blood, because that's going to be a bad thing. God knows what kind of diseases this guy's had. But yeah, he lines him up right behind a phone booth so that when he dies, he can call his dad and get his dad to come after the hobo. So this was a bad call. You probably just could have had him walk out there.
He's just really lucky he had a quarter, is all I'm gonna say.
That's another thing, yes, isn't it? Uh,
Yeah,
so the
like
hobo runs, yeah, because I mean he's probably the kind of guy who would walk around with hundreds or whatever.
yeah, exactly, right? He's not carrying quarters.
Weird, he doesn't have a phone though.
Mhm.
I get that no one else has a phone in this place because it's a poor community, but he'd probably have a cell phone, I think.
Well, I guess it also really depends on when it was shot. It was a 2011 movie, but I don't think it's meant to be set in modern times at all.
Yeah, it could be. You could conceivably say this was set in the 90s or whatever because there are arcade machines.
Mhm.
Um,
Older
but
televisions. I mean, the lawnmower in itself looks old.
again, a lot of that explained by poor community. But
Mhm.
anyway, Hobo rushes Abby off to the hospital so she can get helped by a doctor. She gets helped by the doctor. She recovers from this actually really quick. She probably shouldn't be walking around after this. Just even though she does. So Yeah, they save her as this is happening. Ghost children have come to take away Slick down to hell because he is dead now. It's actually kind of a neat scene. I like it.
I like it too, and considering he kind of deserves it.
Oh yeah, yeah. The burnt up school bus pulls out beside the phone booth and just opens up, and you see him being driven down to hell. It's kind of a nice little setup. Drake reports this to reacts to this by calling up the plague, which is I guess a pair of very terrifying bounty hunters, assassins. They walk around in a ton of armor and scary looking weapons. Yeah, he calls upon the plague, upon his town, upon his sheep, upon his ducks, upon his people, upon his house, upon his vineyard.
And I mean, they were playing a video game in the arcade that was based off the plague. So these guys are like
Oh,
somebody probably went in and created a video game around them. I don't really understand where they're coming from
yeah.
because
We'll go ahead. We'll go a little bit ahead of this because they got a little bit later. We see a bit of their lair. They got a kill wall featuring a picture of the hobos there, like a newspaper picture of the hobos there, and then
mhm.
also on that wall is Jesus, JFK, Joan of Arc,
I'm not too sure. I know Jesus, yeah, and Lincoln were definitely up there,
Lincoln.
but anything else, I'm not too sure about.
But yeah, he is a so. I guess the implication is that these are a bunch of semi-immortal serial killers that go around to kill major historical figures. Although there's a bit of an implication that once you kill a plague, you got to replace them. It's a very interesting bit of lore that never gets expanded upon.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Alternative ending cut was it mentions it, but yeah.
Oh,
I don't I know
yeah.
where you're coming from. I don't understand because I don't think they were in any other movies.
It would have been a weird idea for a sequel. They have to fight the plague, but I don't think that's terribly on theme for what this movie's about, which is odd. It's just excess world building. It adds a bit of flavor to the movie, which I like, but it's just a bit odd. The hobo leaves her. The plague show up to the hospital with motorcycles dragging a coffin. I was hoping this would turn out to be Django and it'd have like a big machine gun in there, but no, it's just a coffin they're gonna throw the hobo in. The hobo is walking freely through the hospital, which is weird. You'd think the cops would have come because they are on Drake's payroll to some extent. It's weird they're just letting the hobo wander around this place. He walks up to the maternity ward, looks at the babies. Good number, like 8 babies, and it just starts giving them a speech to them through the glass, where he drops the title, and he just says, "There's so much. They're gonna tell you there's so much hope, but not here. There's no hope here, and I just hope you turn out better than me. Because if I don't do something about the city, you're just gonna all end up like hobos with shotguns." And it's a very nice speech. He has nice speeches. I like Rutger Hauer's performance a fair bit in this.
He said maybe you will turn out. Most of you are gonna be crackheads or sell drugs or a prostitute. He is very unoptimistic about these kids' future potentials.
Well, yeah, it's. I think it's the city he's in. It's just like this is a really brought out the worst in him. Like he hasn't brought out, he hasn't killed people in other cities as far as we know.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's he's got a very authentic performance in this, where he gets you do get the sense that this is an actual approximation of what like a homeless person in this situation would potentially do if they were had these particular psyches. Not to say it's realistic, just that it's showing the character warts and all, which is not something you get in a lot of movies. A lot of movies would have just pointed out that, oh yeah, he was a John Rambo type, and he's secretly a really badass guy. But they don't say that. He's just as far as we know, just a guy. And I really like that for this. It gets us this really authentic story. which is at odds with a bunch of other stuff in the story, which is going to reflect itself in the final score. But it's nice performance, and I like that they don't manipulate it so that this is a hokey cartoon story like people might initially think.
Mm-hmm.
He does turn into the Punisher, but that's kind of like a natural progression for where his character goes. And he's not I don't think it's really glorifying it as some of the later Die Hard not Die Hard, Death Wish movies would. But yeah, he's just at a point where this is what he is going to do, and he's not I don't know. Yeah, I like it because this is like how I honestly kind of how like I write my characters or role play my characters when I'm playing D&D or whatnot. I make sure that I don't make excuses for them too much. You just gotta have those flaws in there, and it's not a huge 50-page backstory about, oh, he remembers having his son killed, and this is like a long stretch. It's like, this is just what happened during these 2 days, and he is a good person with just perhaps some mental illness issues that he doesn't have the wealth or support system to properly address. And this is just the natural progression of where a character who wants to go good but isn't given any other options would do, because he's really been had his back put to a wall here. The cops aren't going to help. Obviously, the feds should have been in a long time ago, and people aren't rising up against him. So the plague walks into the hospital and start killing medical professionals, which is
Mm-hmm.
how you know people are evil, when they start killing the doctors. And these aren't like, and especially when it's just like normal doctors. Awful. Yeah, he starts hanging these people with a grappling hook, which is interesting. It's Anyway, these Punisher villains break their way into the hospital. They manage to get a hold of the Hobo, and they drag him into a coffin. They beat him up, drag him into a coffin, and then cage him in their lair, which we had mentioned earlier. Ivan shows up, and he makes a big speech about how he's the only one, he is the only son left, and that everything's going to go to him, which is maybe setting up for a betrayal scene later, but it never comes. There's these odd bits of things where they set stuff up and it doesn't fall over. And Ivan's a character that really gets perhaps underutilized. I think what they're going for is this is the arrogance of what their situation has given them. They all think they're just invincible. And it's not, even when one of them dies, it hasn't really clicked. They still all think they're going to walk out of this and kick everyone's ass. This is just a temporary setback, and not even a setback. It's just like, unfortunate, we'll deal with this.
I'd never realized how extensive Rutger Hauer's whatchamacallit is. He
I
passed
suppose.
in like a couple years back, I think.
Yeah, just
Yep.
last year.
75 years old.
Wait. Oh shit, he was the guy that played main android in Blade Runner, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. I forgot about that. I'm dumb. Uh, but yeah, he just died last year.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm also not I haven't watched Blade Runner extensively, so I just forgot about it, what his name was. No, he does good in that movie. I like this guy. Anyway, Abby notices what happens. She goes, grabs the hobo shotgun, and shoots her way into the pawn shop, mods the gun, makes some armor, sets up that lawnmower from earlier as a shield, which is unfortunate because that gets used against her later. Spoiler alert. She walks out of the pawn shop. The mob that has been hunting homeless people walks up and saunters up, and it's just like, "Oh yeah, who are you? Are you homeless?" And he's like, "No." And you know what? And she gives a big speech about how the homeless people have the biggest house in the world and it's outside, and that we should be showing their homes some respect, which is an odd way of looking at it, but I
Mm-hmm.
like it. I like where she's going with this. A nice little message about giving the homeless some respect, I guess. So she goes to go rescue the hobo. Drake is setting up his public execution, much like he had done to Ricky earlier in the movie. So yeah, she shows up and takes Ivan hostage. She attempts to bargain him with his life, but Drake's just like, yeah, whatever. He's my shitty son. I don't care about him. Which that's cold.
Hmm.
So he just shoots Ivan, which is probably a bad move. He's losing an ally here.
When you said earlier that you think that there'd be a betrayal scene, this is the betrayal scene that I thought of, and I'm like, there was a betrayal scene. It's just not in the way that you expected it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some foreshadowing there, but I don't think it's for I guess it's for this, but I don't think it really does much for the story. So, the plague attempts to take her down. She manages to kill one of the plague by breaking it in the lawnmower. The other plague member he had attempted to drive off and rip off the hobo's head with the noose, but Abby had
Hmm.
jumped out the last minute and chopped up the rope with an axe so that she saved the hobo. She tries to get the hobo out of the grate so that she can save him. Drake stops her and then shoves her hand into the exposed lawnmower, and it leaves her with this really graphic looking exposed wrist bone, which she uses to stab Drake. And then she frees the hobo with using her exposed bone as a lever, which ow. That's probably way more painful than they're showing it, and it looks pretty fucking painful.
One thing I'd like to touch on, the fact that they did try and hang the hobo in the same fashion that they hung Ricky earlier on, but the hobo got an actual noose,
But yeah, that was odd.
and Ricky got the barbed
Yeah,
wire
the barbed
noose.
wire.
And the only
Must have
reason
ran out
I
of
could
barbed wire.
think of there being, yeah, besides them running out of barbed wire, is that they needed it to be able to be cut with an axe.
Well, I mean, you know,
Yeah,
you could potentially maybe get against cement. You could potentially sell that in a movie at least. It would be kind of difficult for it to. I don't know. I think he could probably sell it at least within movie logic. So yeah, she gets the hobo out of there. The other plague shows up and is just like you think there's going to be a fight, but he kind of just lets everyone go and says that she must become the next plague because she killed the other one. You say it's followed up on an alternate ending.
where she becomes the new plague, yeah. Or at least that's what I have here on Wikipedia. In an extended ending that was taken out from the final cut of the film, Abby's hand is replaced by a Gatling-style shotgun as she becomes the new member of the.
Doesn't really I guess you could anyway, we'll get into sequel stuff, sequel theorization after we've done the plot, which is really cool. So the other plague walks off and the cops show up. The hobo is at this point holding his shotgun over Drake. They're telling him to put the gun down. He's considering it, but it's kind of a John Marsden situation here where he can't possibly survive the situation because they're just going to take him in and kill him probably. After a while, he looks around and just considers his options. At this point, the citizens want to surround the police with their guns and set up to shoot up the police if they shoot up the hobo. And the hobo decides to set it off and shoots Drake, killing him. The cops shoot the hobo, and then the community shoots the cops, and thus ending possibly the. That actually wraps up everything in a nice little bow, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of solved its own.
Because the cops are still corrupt, and this could be a small enough town that that's most of the cops. I mean, they're at least going to have to replace. The chief's definitely there, so they're going to have to replace a good number of these people. You're probably fine now. So like a whole new whole new workplace philosophy coming on here. And yeah, that's the movie pretty much ends exactly after that. Abby's in distress because she just saw her friend die. And yeah,
Mhm.
that's the end of the movie. So yeah, well kind of what I was bringing up the sequel stuff for a bit, because her becoming the plague doesn't as much work on this one. She could become a hobo with a shotgun, because I mean she could just be homeless out of this after this. It's probably fine. She might end up in jail after this for all we know. But so yeah, there's
The whole police force was taking out.
yeah. Oh yeah, but there might be some cops some
Who's
other
gonna
place.
arrest her?
Yeah, I don't imagine everyone's getting arrested here. Some people are getting away.
And even if you did, I'd just show him the news report where
You
this guy
certainly
came
don't
in.
feel bad for any of these cops, yeah. But yeah, I guess that could work and be a very interesting. I don't know if it works for this movie as much, but I think this is a nice little self-contained story as it is. Obviously, if you don't make back a third of your budget, you're not getting your damn sequel, but
Sorry, I was looking at the casting list here, and so Jeremy Akerman, who plays the corrupt police officer, I wanted to check if he was an actor, what he was in and stuff, because the name remotely sounds familiar. He was a politician and a former leader of the Nova Scotia New Democratic Party.
oh,
It has nothing about his filmography on his Wikipedia page, just his political career.
oh, imagine that throwing like clips from this movie and like a attack ad against him.
Oh yeah, that's very easy.
Oh yeah, that'd be.
Especially considering he plays the corrupt police officer in the movie.
Well, I don't have too much more about this. What did you give the movie, Cody?
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
Kyle. We've established that you are Kyle and I am Cody in this episode, so we stick with that.
Basically, I'm not gonna give this higher than a 3.
Yeah,
You can talk me up to maybe like I'd say about a 2 at most, maybe a 2.5 if you take into some of the redeeming qualities of the characters and stuff like that. But besides that, it's just kind of your run of the mill, slasher horror flick. Well, I really wouldn't even call it.
revenge movie,
Yeah.
revenge vigilante movie.
Uh-huh.
They say dark comedy, black comedy, but I don't.
There wasn't a whole lot funny in it.
Yeah, 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 black comedy exploitation film, which I don't know. There's too much money in it. There's a couple jokes, but I don't think that makes it a comedy. I'm gonna give it a generous 7 just because I kind of like it. I made my speech about how like I kind of write characters in a similar manner, so I kind of like seeing just another guy do a not. I don't write books like this, or I don't do this exact thing, but it's like some similar methodology, and I kind of like it. So yeah, I'm giving it a generous set, like as in me being generous to it. It's probably a little bit of a shorter episode. That's kind of nice. We've been long the last couple of weeks. So what are we renewing next week, Kyle?
Where is our dice?
I got one. I want to use
Roll that dice.
I used that one last week. I'm going to use a different one. I rolled that one last week. You know what? I have a blood spatter one. I'm going to roll that. That is a 6. Find my list. Oh, we're going back to next week. We are going back to our Razzie films that aren't actually that bad with Son of the Mask.
Nice.
I don't know. I'm curious whether this is good because I thought it was really funny when I was a kid. I am very curious whether or not this holds up because it very well might not. I would not be surprised for 1 second. It just reeks of that thing. I'm like, I don't think it's gonna have a. Just reeks of that feeling, because everyone hates it. I watched it at a kind of like a 10 or something. So
yeah, that probably would have been the same time, roughly around when I watched it. It can't be that great.
Yeah, we watched. Yeah, you probably would have watched it fairly new, and that's probably when it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
We were 10ish because it's yeah, it's a 2005 film, so that puts us at about 9. Yeah, so that'll be our thing next week. I do enjoy the original Mask quite a bit.
This one has Jim Cummings in it.
Too bad we can't review that for the show. It's just a little bit too popular. I can't really swing it. But yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm curious to see how that turns out. So yeah, you can follow us on. Just remember to leave those 5-star reviews on iTunes. Circulate the links. You can follow us on Facebook at Kyle and Cody's called CinemaCast. Follow us on Twitter at KCCinemaPod. I think that's everything. Circulate the links, show your friends. Have a nice night, listeners. See you next week.